people will show up. We'll see.
I just made a push on Facebook with my personal page too.
All right, guys, we're live. We got some folks in the room. If you're in the room, go to the chat feature. Should be the second box on the blue bar from the top. Say hello. Tell us where you're from. And all right, we got Daniel. He's a standard. He's always the first in the room. Portland, Oregon, the most liberal. I can't say that. I'm not supposed to talk politics. The city. You could probably do infill lights though in Portland though. I'm betting. I know they love that kind of stuff. Who else is in here? We got about 10 people in the room already. Tell us where you're from. Say hello. And if you have trouble hearing or viewing, try turn off everything that's using your Wi-Fi. Let's see, Lowell from Florida. How you doing, brother? Adam from Fort Worth. I wonder if you know. Do you ever cross paths with a guy named Adam? That's right there in your neighborhood, isn't it?
I rub his shoulders on Sundays.
Okay, Sanju, he's our man. Actually, Sanju's done a really good job of helping me find additional people to interview. He's made some suggestions. I actually nailed some people down because of his recommendations. Anyway, guys, turn off if you're on your phone. Turn off anything in the background that's using Wi-Fi. If you're on a desktop or a laptop, turn off your Wi-Fi on your phone. Turn off Dropbox. Turn off Skype. All that kind of stuff will give you a better experience on the webinar. Hey, Jason. Is that Jason Elliott? Is that who that is? In Tulsa. Anyway, I want to welcome our special guest tonight, Justin Sliva. I can't do it like Adam does it. But
you did well.
Justin he's a man of multiple talents. He's a pro member of LA Academy. He started his own podcast called Casual Fridays, REI, for real estate investment. That's what I assume that means. And you also started up your own company called Plum Investments, which is a way for you guys, if you want to buy a piece of property, to get it funded 100%, no money out of pocket. And Justin will fund it and then split the profits 50-50. That's a freaking unbelievable deal. And so anyway, we're going to get started. Why don't you give us and by the way, I'm going to be putting up some polls and some things on the screen. I want to send you guys, by the way, and Justin has a special discount for some consulting work that he does that I highly recommend. I just did my consulting call with Adam Salvi, who is his co-host on the webinar. Really fixed some issues that I had. I had no clue that I had, and I'm looking forward to getting my next mailer out there and seeing how it's going to affect it. So tell us, Justin, how in the heck did you get into raw land and land flipping business?
Well, my good buddy Adam wouldn't let me join his real estate investment company. We had an Amazon company together, and he told me he wanted to liquidate and start doing some real estate investment. And I said, cool, so we're going to start a real estate investment company. And he said, well, I'm going to start a real estate investment company. And he said, but you can too. So we bought the course. My wife was actually going to do it. I had a good job. I was working full time. She was at home, so it was going to give her an opportunity to do something at home that wasn't full time, that kind of made some money, and I was just going to fund it for her. She got into it, and she kept asking me about it. So I never actually watched the Land Academy course. I just kind of would help her through the different steps, and we did our first mailer, and we got it ready. We got the free property from Land Academy. Bought 3 from the state of Arkansas, going through the course with her. Then we did our first mailer about 4 months later, and we bought 21 properties with it. And
on one mailer?
Yeah, on one mailer. And then that was in January 29. We sent January 29 of 17. We sent our first mailer. April 21st of 17, I found myself without a job and just went full time, and just said I'm going to scale and do whatever the hell I need to do to make sure my family can eat.
Were you in the railroad business? Is that where you were at?
I was. I spent 15 years working for the railroad. I was my last position was a general manager of operations. That's a chief operating officer, if you will, for a small railroad. And before that, I worked for a Fortune 150 company, and I was a director level Band D manager for them when I left them and worked for a small railroad.
But there's no such thing as a safe job. So you got fired? Is that what you're telling me?
Legally, I can't say whether I quit or I was fired. We signed a separation agreement. We shook hands and parted ways. And
okay.
We both enjoyed
a golden parachute. How did you manage? Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Ask the question.
So how did you manage to purchase 21 properties? You must have been sitting on your golden parachute money from your railroad separation.
No, that actually money wasn't from that. We bought the 21 properties. It was in Brewster County. I'm not shy about saying where I mailed to. We offered $120 an acre, and we mailed everything that was 5 acre up to 120 acre. We just said we're going to go balls deep in it and just do what we need to do and see what comes back. And we did that. We bought all that property, and it was like, oh shit, we have 21 properties we need to sell now. And we just started putting it out in Craigslist. My wife's putting it on Craigslist. We're putting it on eBay. We're putting it on lands.com, just putting it anywhere we can get somebody to buy it. And then we just turned around and sold it. If somebody offers first, go ahead.
I'm sorry, how much did you invest for the 21 properties? So what did it take to acquire all 21?
It was probably about $25,000. I mean,
okay, so it wasn't like an outrageous amount of money.
No, we ended up making $70,000 off that county in our first 4 months. Yeah, so I mean, it was a good way to catapult us into doing it full time. The next mailer we sent, we bombed horribly. We thought, well, you got to figure it out. It's $125 an acre. We mailed Park County, Colorado, got laughed off the face of the earth. Mailed Stevens County, Washington, got one property back there, and we paid $2,500 for a 20-acre property, and turned that into shit. It sold for $16,000 day 2 on the market. Then went to Oklahoma and bought a bunch of property in Oklahoma.
So did you start in Texas? Is that where you did most of your mailers?
Yeah, for Brewster County, yeah.
I don't even know where Brewster County is, but
Brewster County is Big Bend. It's near Mexico.
Okay. Why did you pick that county?
Because it had a state park in it and a national park, and it was kind of rugged, and we saw the prices were cheap.
So you looked at the things you look for, which are attributes, which it had a national and a state park, and it was rugged, affordable.
So.
Okay, gotcha. And then where did that lead you to? I mean, that was like shooting out of a cannon right there. You got started. I mean, well, I would say you took 4 months to get your first mailer out. Were you still trying to learn?
No, it was my wife's company. So she was just processing the other properties, and then where we wanted to go. So the thought was we were going to sell the free property, which we sold on eBay. We made $500 off of it, which was great. Bought 3 from the state of Arkansas. We made, I think, $1,000 on each one, so we made $3,000 with that. And then we just jumped straight into. Then it's like, okay, January, we're going to get started with our mailer. We're going to do our first mailer.
So hold on, let me tell Jason here. Jason says he can't see us. Where's Jake and Justin? Maybe they had a last minute deal. No, you guys need to log out and log back in, Jason. Anyway, he probably can't even hear me if he can't see us. So when did you decide to take the business away from your wife?
Well, when we did the first mailer, the hate that came back, she said, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. Because I had a guy, I was an older black gentleman from Louisiana. It was on a property there. He called, and he told me that not over his dead body was he going to sell me that property, because I would call him back because it freaked her out so bad to talk to somebody. And I told him, I said, okay, great. That's awesome. Take my letter and put it next to your will, because when you die, your kids will call me and sell me the property. And she said, she goes, there's no way that you just said that to that guy. And she's watching me talk to him. And he said, you're a smart ass, aren't you? And I said, yes, sir. My dad says the same thing. He goes, I like you, but you're not getting my property. And I said, okay, just remember, put the letter next to your will. And that right there was the moment she said she's not doing it. She's not, I'll be back into work, whatever you want. She said she's not doing it. So.
Yeah, well, I actually don't mind the hate calls. I mean, were there hate letters or hate calls that you got?
That was a call. That was on a call, because we answered everything live at that point. We didn't have that live. We had a voicemail set up with Google Voice, but her job was to do this land business, so she was supposed to answer. So she wouldn't answer, and then she'd say, okay, she would take their message, check the APN, it had access, it had good back taxes, good HOA. Then she would give me that name and that number and tell me to call them back. And so I would call them back, and it was just walking into a firestorm at that point. So, all right.
Daniel is saying you sound like you're in an echo chamber. Mic not close enough. Put it right up to your. I mean, right.
Put it there. I don't think it's that.
It may not be that. Maybe what's happening is your voice is coming through. Maybe your mic on your computer is what's on, and your mic on your headset's not. I don't know. It is kind of echoey. So
I don't know how to change your mic on this.
Yeah, you probably can't do anything about it. But okay, so she didn't like the hate calls. Do you get hate letters as well?
He told me to go fuck myself.
Do what?
I got one last week. Told me to go fuck myself with the
okay.
they sent me. Yeah. Sorry for the.
Well, wait a minute. Didn't you get like a nasal derivative of a letter
too? Yeah, I got a booger too.
Adam said that somebody like blew their nose on a letter and mailed it back to you.
Yeah. No, I got a booger last week too. That's a true story.
All right. Yeah, I haven't got that bad. I've had people write nasty notes on the letter and mail it back. One person said, I don't know why you waste a stamp sending this to me because I'm never going to sell. I'm thinking, well, why did you waste a stamp sending that back to me?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that people do that.
That's the fun part.
What I plan on doing is start recording more of these hate calls, and then I want to have a special session on each webinar. Like, here's the hate call of the week, and play it back for you guys. Anybody interested in doing that? Anyway, so you got that going. Your wife decided she don't want to do that. Do you take all the calls now? Or are you using Pat Live?
We use Pat Live. Yeah, we switched to Pat Live right after that Brewster County mailer. We just went ahead and paid for it and went and did it.
Is it because you don't literally have the time to answer the calls, or is it distracting you from doing more quality time on work, or what?
Yeah, I just don't want to. I mean, I pay $140 to pay somebody else to answer my calls, and I can qualify my leads that way. I'd rather do that. That's money well spent.
Yeah, but how do you know you're not losing deals because you got a third-party company that don't have a vested interest, really. They want to do a good job, but they don't really understand how to hunker down and how to maybe sense that there's a different opportunity when somebody's calling you. I mean, didn't you ever get some like investors that call you back and they're more curious than anything? Like, do you actually buy properties that cheap? They're just trying to fish out, because I turn those people into my buyers list. No,
I agree with you, but the thought process of that, and I'm not trying to be rude or a dick, but it's you're trying to talk yourself out of doing something. It's because you're like, oh well, what if we can what if the whole thing together and say, well, what if nobody calls back off a letter? Well, what if nobody does this? Well, the idea is I want to get a lead off a letter, and I want to know that it's a good lead, and then I want to buy the property and I want to resell the property. Now, the company Pat Live does this for investors in houses and land. This isn't just a put together company by somebody that was a Land Academy member at some point and said, hey, let's make a call center and do this. It's a company that their whole profession is to answer for investors. So those bandit signs you see all over the country, they get directed to a Pat Live or somebody, an equivalent of it. And they're good at their job. That's what they get paid to do. And we pay them well. If you have a question, you can check the tapes and see if you're losing something. So I would caution you into getting into the what if scenarios, or what if I'm going to lose a potential buyer. If that person really wants to get a hold of you, they're going to email you. They're going to text you. They're going to do something else. And
well, I guess I'm thinking in terms of, I had a couple of different builders that I've talked to, that one of them was in Indiana, and we got to talking, and I was saying, he was saying, man, I wish I could buy a property that cheap. I said, well, if I could find property up where you are, you build houses, right? He goes, yeah. I said, what's your market like? He goes, man, it is heating up. It's cranking. Yeah. And there's about 4 counties up here that's really going great. And I said, what are those 4 counties? And then I'm thinking, okay, I might be able to do some infill lots with the guy. I don't know. I mean, I just, but right now I've got the time. I've got the time. Yeah, well, I've got the time to do it right now. I want to be forced to, and I guess there will come a time where I can't be taking a phone call because I got to be sending a letter, or I got to be closing a deal with somebody. I don't know. So right now I'm enjoying it. Ben, we're going to get to your question. Ben's wanting to know how to walk us through how you partner with Plum. We'll get to that. We're not to there yet. All right. So what did you go after the 21 property mailer at that point? What happened in the next?
We said we went to Park, bombed there, went to Washington, saved it with one property. We made 15 grand. Then we went to Oklahoma, Melton County, Oklahoma. And in that county, we bought a 24 acre, a 40 acre, 135 acre. And that's where we really dialed in that 35% and that $1,000 margin. We did those, and on that county, we made $110,000 on that county.
How long did it take you to do that?
Oh, that was, I think, our longest property took, because we had to do a quiet title, because grandpa passed it to dad passed it to sons. One of the sons had died, and they were on board and selling it, and they had sent a letter back a couple months later, but it was probably all 6 months. Most of the property sold within a couple weeks of being on the market.
So you weren't in the real estate business before this. How do you learn how to do that? How do you learn, okay, what in the hell I need to do with this title to quiet it with all these moving parts, people dying and people being, and where did you get the knowledge to do that?
That's a great question. And you hear me always talk about building your team and what that looks like. So if you go work a county you know nothing about, in the state you know nothing about, if you hire a title company to close your deals, they know exactly what needs to take place. Then they tell you, hey, this is what's going to have to take place. You get a hold of what they need to do and you follow the recommendations. They are professionals in their craft. So, whether it's railroad or if it's real estate, there are paid professionals that know exactly what their piece of the pie is or what their part of the process is that can do that. You lean on those. That's just running a business. That's just standard operating practices and running that through. So,
but doesn't it help you to know what it takes to quiet a title so that you don't even send them a deal that there's going to be a dead in the water kind of thing? You ever get to the point where because you've learned it from the title company, now you know that this deal is a dead deal. There's no sense in even taking it to title.
So let me phrase it this way. And again, it comes off arrogant, and I don't want it to. But if you didn't have a way to get a title moved from somebody dying, then the government would own all the property. So there has got to be a path to get it closed. You know what I'm saying? So there has got to be a route right now. Yeah. So there's got to be a route for somebody somewhere to get it done. And that's that perseverance. That's that, hey, I've got to feed my kid no matter what. I'm going to figure it out and just keep doing it. And that's the problem with a lot of new land investors is they go buy a $100 an acre property. They go buy 5 acres for $500. It needs a quieted title. Well, that's $2,200. There is no point in doing that deal. But on this piece of property, I offered them $48,000 on 135 acres. It ended up costing me $52,000 to close it, and I sold it to the neighbor for $135,000. It's worth it.
So there are times when a deal is dead, but it's not because you can't fix it. It's because it's not worth it. And that's where you got to discern between that.
And that's why you need to know what a quiet title is going to cost you, what those type of things are going to cost. Could you use an affidavit of heirship to get around it? Do you have to quiet the title? Is there ways around this stuff? I've only had one deal that I was not able to do, and it's because the kids were jerks. And it was 12 kids. We couldn't get them to sign on the affidavit of heirship for their stepmom because they didn't like her, and it cost me probably $30,000. And they were entitled to $200 on a deal, and they said, "You know what? Screw her." And so this thing's going to go bankrupt.
But it didn't cost you $30,000. You just didn't make $30,000, right?
I just didn't make 30 on it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So when you jump from Texas to then you went to you said you went to Washington State?
Colorado, Washington State, and Oklahoma.
Why did you pick those states, and what gave you any confidence that you should go across country instead of just staying in your own backyard?
I thought it was pretty.
Did you say, honey, tell me a state that you think is pretty?
No, I mean, it's funny that we all think that there's the special recipe. I mean, the idea of what we do is we create leads off of direct mail or whatever way you create them. But, for the most part, people direct mail. So the idea is mail it, know the pricing methodology, get somebody to call you back and negotiate to get a property undervalued. So you own it for cheaper than it's worth and sell it for more than you bought it for. That's all we have to do. It's super simple. But we get hung up on saying, okay, what's the secret recipe that we have?
The secret county. I mean, you must have had the secret county list if you went to Colorado and then Washington and then pinging back over to Oklahoma. No. When you go to a different state, do you do any kind of research about what the legalities are that might be different? Like, you know, like you said, there's some states that are attorney close and you can't do self-close there. So do you check into that before you go blindly mailing a letter to some place that your wife thinks is pretty?
No, I will look at, I will look if it's attorney only or a title company, just to kind of have an idea. But you have to think now with Plum, I get property from 4 different groups sending it to me. So far this year, I've looked at 1,000 properties. I have bought properties in 30 states so far this year. So to say that I knew every law in every place, that's why I don't buy $500 piece of property. That's why we run it through title. That's why I contact a realtor there and say, hey, who's your favorite title company? You cold call 2 of them or 3 of them, they'll give you a name because they have somebody they want to recommend. And then you just go tell them, hey, so-and-so recommended you. And now
So
you have, go ahead.
So when you do that after you've like maybe zeroed in on a county, you found some county in Colorado that you kind of like, that's when you start calling the local real estate agents in that county looking for the referral to a title company?
No, after I bought it, I've got a property under contract.
Oh, okay.
I don't play what ifs. So like for instance, I may have a guy that calls me and says, hey man, I've got this piece of property. I think I can get the lady to sell it to me for this. Well, tell me what you have it under contract for, because we're not going to play what ifs. I mean, there's no time in that. That's not a value add for anybody. It makes you feel better, and it drives it makes your nerves when you're newer. But ideally, you have a lead, get it under contract if you think it's worth it, and then we'll close the deal.
So David is asking, do you front the money to the attorney to do the quiet title? Is there a risk your seller will walk away after you pay to quiet the title, and do you have a way to mitigate that risk?
It kind of depends on the funds in the place. Most of those people are hurting for money, so they're not going to walk away. If it's like a $40,000 piece of property, you're putting up $2,200. Normally they'll ask for a retainer up front, a couple $100. So you're risking that, and then you put it into the closing statement. They'll tie it into the HUD, so they get paid at the closing. So it just depends on the state you're working with and how that actually works.
So he's just more. David's really worried about the seller walking away during this time frame, but you're saying that's not probably going to happen because they need the money. They
need the money, and they can't do anything with the property. They have to quiet the title to sell it. So if you frame it to them and say, hey, you can't. There's nothing we can do with this property until the title's been quieted. So let's get that done. I'll pay for it, but it's going to come out of closing. And they're yeah, okay. I've never had somebody that don't want the help.
I'm just going to get a quick judge. I'm going to do a poll here, guys. I'm just trying to get an idea of how many people in the room are LA Land Academy Pro members that paid for your joining membership, or people that are like, I'm hearing about you guys, but I've never actually joined yet. So far, it's 100%. Everybody's in the room is pro members. Okay. All right. I'm going to end that poll. I'm going to go back and let's do another poll. I'm going to reset the poll. I want to see how many people are listening to your podcast. Let's do that. Let's see.
Well, I just got word that we hit number 38 podcast and investment the side of iTunes, which to give people an idea of what that means. Grant Cardone is 18 or 20. Land Academy is 500. Mark Wilson's 300. So if that gives you an idea of where the trajectory of Casual Fridays is going, and it's because of the listeners we have. So we
And it may be because you guys are not technically selling a course like the other two are. I mean, even Stephen and Jill are trying to recruit people. I know you're doing consulting work, but other than that, you're doing a podcast. Why did you start the podcast?
As Adam gets joked with, it's because we like to think highly of ourselves. No, it's kind of our way to get back. I'm giving him a hard time, but it's really because we like the idea of giving back, and there's a point in every career path you're going to be in. So whether for me, if it was the number 2 at a railroad, you have to spend time to give back to invest in the community around you. And that's, you hear that, your net worth is your network and things like that, those cliche things. But there's something to be said about hearing a story like Tim Flood's. He makes $100,000 on a deal. He loses his job. We have lunch and lay out a plan to scale his business extremely fast. him and his partner nail it on the head every time. And now the guy's changed his life. So
think about what would happen if you had inadvertently said, yeah, maybe you ought to go get you a job right now and keep doing this part-time. You could have deep sixed his career because you're the reason he went full-time.
Yeah, no, and that's, for me, he doesn't even mention that on the Land Academy when he tells a story on that because he got so excited about
no credit.
Yeah, no credit, but that's not what it's about. It's about seeing some people be successful. I get a call back that say, hey, like, I just sent the mailer out that we priced together, and I've got 4 properties sitting on my desk today. What do I do? We had Jen on our show today, and she is going to make more off of these first 9 properties than she's going to make, or she's got another property that's getting ready to close too. So those 10 properties, she's going to make her like half a year's salary, like 7-8 months salary off one mailer and using the coffee money for real estate, or my book, using that methodology to buy 8 properties. So,
oh, dang.
Yeah,
I forgot about you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you think about that, and like, we're in a world today where people are about themselves, and they don't give back very much. They don't hold the door open. They don't say please. They don't say thank you. They just worry about what's me right now. But that's a mom of 4 that her husband's probably wondering, why the hell is this guy helping her out for free? I haven't asked anything. She won a show. We gave her the option, and we said, you know what? This would be a good thing to show everybody that you could really do it with $500 and get started. And so she wanted to go faster than I wanted her to. But that's what it's about. It's about seeing the community get better around you, because you know when people are good people. And if you can get yourself around solid people and you all do better together, the society races up a little bit. You put yourself in a happy medium.
Well, see, I'm not even giving back. I'm just giving because I hadn't made it yet. But
yeah,
I enjoy it.
The show right now, like, I love it because you're getting people on the show to help you through your business. So
I got a front row seat, baby.
You got a front row seat, and that's what it's about. And we talk about, oh, well, I'm going to follow your business plan to a model. It's not about my business plan. It's not about Adam's business plan. It's not about your business plan. It's about doing where you're comfortable and keep moving in the right direction, because everybody's trajectory is a little bit different. I was going to have fun? Go ahead.
But you don't even know how much stuff I've already learned. Every person I interview, like, for example, Tim Flood is the reason I'm in this business, because he made a simple Facebook post in a group that I'm in with him, a bunch of peppers, and he said, well, I guess I'm going to be going into the land flipping business full time because I just got fired from my job. Yeah. And I said, everybody was congratulating him. Okay, I hope you make it. Good luck. I was like, what in the hell is land flipping business, man? Well, how does that work? And we went off the side and had a long conversation, and thank God that he got fired, because I might not be here right now. But anyway, it does have a weird way of coming around. Let's see. We got Sanju says, so typically people say that the limit, this is back to the title company, the limit is above $5,000 to do title. How much would you deal to have to be worth to quiet a title?
So quiet title is going to cost you about $200 to $2,500. So the profit margin is going to have to be there for you on that backside. So if you don't see that, so if you're buying it for $5,000, you're going to sell it for $15,000, and you're going to be in it for $75,000. You're not too bad off. Right. So I would say just look at your margin and what it's actually going to pay back. Now, do you want to go do a quiet title and you're in it for $7,500? You're going to sell it for $8,000. It's not worth your time at that point. Just kill the deal.
So I don't know what David meant by this, but it says it's because you curse on the podcast. Probably because you get in trouble.
I get in trouble by my big brother, and he's actually better than me.
Yeah. So, and then Ben is saying, was on the webinar last week and heard about Casual Fridays being listened to the most episodes in the last week. Great stuff.
Great,
maybe Ben. Hey, appreciate that. Yeah. And so, hey, guys, I'll just go ahead and put this up. If you guys have listened to the podcast, wait a minute. I want you to go, if you take a minute maybe, and give Justin and Adam a review. So you can click on that. It should take you over to iTunes. You can leave a review for them, because reviews are important. You guys got any reviews?
Yeah, we've got 31, I think. 31
okay.
5-star.
It's hard to get people to review. Have you had any bad or negative reviews?
Not yet. We've had some comments about our early days, the sound, but you hear it now, and that's what we tell people is, you don't have to be perfect to get started. Just try, you know. And it's the same as doing a mailer. We are going to mess up a mailer. I mean, don't be so hung up in the idea that it's not perfect that you just stop and you don't try it. You know, if you're not going to try, you're not willing to take that first leap of faith. You shouldn't do it. You should own your own business.
I just messed up a mailer big time. I just sent out 3,675 letters to 3 different counties, and then I did my consult with Adam a couple days ago, and he basically said, "Yeah, you really botched this, Jake, about 3 different ways." And he went through it and dissected it, and yeah, now I get it. But up until that point, I thought I was doing it the right way. I mean, how would you know until you don't get any results? And I didn't. We didn't get any results on that mailer, except for one lady wanted to sell us a landlocked property, which involved a railroad, by the way. You're a railroad guy. Well, railroads, you got to be able to cross a railroad track. Do you have to? Is there like a protocol to say, "Hey, Mr. Railroad guy, I need to cross your land here. Would you let me?" You know, do they require you to put in a certain type of crossing, or you have to
get a crossing agreement. Sometimes they charge you for that. Sometimes they don't. Like a farmer's crossing, they'll do private crossings. Railroads try to get away from that because of the risk, because there's no lights, no gates, and railroads are all about risk mitigation. And if you hear me talk about Plum and you hear me talk about my land business, I silo stuff and I mitigate the risk. And so you may have somebody say, well, Steve and Jill will do a $500,000 deal and sell it for $700,000. That's great for them. That's their risk tolerance. Like for me, I would rather buy between $8,000 and $20,000 deals all day and sell them for $25,000 to $60,000, $70,000, because now my risk is mitigated silo. And so it's the same thing with the railroads. So they don't want to put a dirt road or a dirt path across a piece of track with no lights, no nothing out in the middle of nowhere. Then they're going to risk hitting a farmer who's not paying attention.
Well, the only way I'd buy this piece of property, if I could get access, would be it's a railroad track here, and then there's a highway here, and a 7-acre piece of property would be a great place to put a billboard. So if I could go to a billboard company and they would lease it from me and say, we'll pay you $2,000 a month to let us put a billboard there, and the railroad guys would let me, you know, hey, these guys are almost never going to be on your land. They're going to come every now and then and change the billboard or maintenance. Yeah, then it might make sense to do it. I don't know. It's just one of those things I'd like to investigate to see if I can make it work. Not because I have to make it work, but it would be nice to see if that's possible. Have you ever done any deals where you made improvements to the land? I know you talked about that one timber play that you could have done and made $100,000, but you passed on it. Have you ever done anything where you put a dozer in there and put a road in or something to make a property worth a lot more than it is when you bought it or before you bought it?
Other than houses and multifamily, on land, no. Land, the name of the game is a velocity of the money for me right now. Houses and multifamily we have improved, but land, no, we have not. And that's just because we're buying it so cheap. Why not make a transactional profit and move on and keep running it?
So that brings me to a question I have written down. I've got a few questions here for you. And anyway, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, what was the timeline like for you to go from starting small to scaling up? I mean, there's got to be different levels of the business where you'd say, Jake, you're going to do this for a while, and then you're going to get tired of it. And this, if you're smart, you'll do this next, and you'll start making this kind of money. And if you keep doing that, you'll do this, and you get to this level. And you should be able to do this over a certain period of time. What does that game plan sound like or look like?
When I said earlier that everybody believes there's a secret recipe, there's not. It's going to be about your risk tolerance. We went our $100 an acre the first 2 mailers just because we didn't know any better on the second mailer. The third mailer, we went to $1,000 acre properties, and we never looked back from there.
When you say $1,000, you're offering
no market value. We offered $375, $350, $375.
So you're 35% on $1,000 properties. So if you find a county that everything else looks good, attributes, where it's located, but it's $2,000 an acre, you're just going to pass on it?
Oh, I'll know that, but I just offer $600 an acre.
That's what I'm saying. You'll just scale up the offer to match it, as long as you can buy it under value. So can you explain more?
It's the same equation. It's not any different. The thing that you're hanging up on is you. It's not any different. You're going to put a title person in place. They're going to get you clean title. You're not going to be calling a notary and getting all those places. You're going to offer the same percentage, you know, to a point, because when you get up to it, one of the guys that I helped, his first land deal, we spent $320,000 on a piece of property. It's 200 acres in Texas, and we sold it for $505,000 and kept 15% of the minerals. And he sold it in 12 hours on the market. That was his first deal that it sold. That was my first guy that I helped him sold with. There was no different in that deal than there is with going to a $5,000 property you send a title. It's the exact same thing. It's just how much money you're wiring at the front side. That's the only difference.
So do you get butterflies when you're sending out smaller amounts of checks like 2,000 or 3,000, all of a sudden you're sending out 10 or 15 or 20 grand? Did you get?
I sent $110,000 out last week on like 5 deals.
Well, yeah, but that's last week. You've been in the business now for what, 3 years?
2.5, 3 years, yeah.
So back when you went to that first big level.
That big first one that was over $50,000 was it was all my money, and there was a quiet title involved. There was some things like I was just ready for it to get closed, and then I wanted to get it listed. So I actually drove the property myself, flew the drone over it myself, made my drone video, took pictures, took all the pictures, listed it, ran it through all the premium accounts, and sold it to the neighbor on the neighbor letter. So you
have a drone?
No, I borrowed a buddy's.
Oh, okay, gotcha. You knew how to fly it?
He showed me in his backyard for 5 minutes.
Holy cow! You didn't crash it. That's pretty good. Yeah,
you just hit land. It's really easy. You just hit land and it lands it for you. It's not super hard.
Well, I did. We bought a drone.
Okay.
Really, the excuse was so we can use it for this business. But hell, I love to fly drones anyway, so it was a good excuse. But Tim Flood does a good job of intertwining those drone videos with his regular sales videos. So yeah.
I'm gonna cut the camera quick, make a drink.
Okay. So let me look at my list of questions to see where I'm at here. Now you said you use you have an assistant. When did you finally get to the point where you hired a third-party person that wasn't your wife to help you do the business?
So we did on our second mailer. We had Pat Live come on. So that was our first little step, and then we tried to hire some people all through last year to start our small land business again, because I felt like I was missing stuff that was just churning by focusing on the $10,000 to $12,000 to $15,000 spread properties. So I was like, well, I could put somebody to work, and they could create their own business and learn how to do it and fund the money and have $15,000 or $20,000 just always turning in small deals, and then be taking half the profit. So if you got 15 grand turning and you're making 3 times your money, you know, you're making 15 grand at all times, and you just keep it moving. We went through a couple people.
So what you're saying is that you were taking all these smaller deals that you really didn't want to fool with yourself, but they were sitting on the table. There's money on the table, and you just figured out a way to leverage your effort through someone else and make that stuff work.
Yeah, and finally it took us till we got the third person in there. It turned out that she learned how to do that. She runs our eBay business for us, but then she also is a transaction coordinator for, I think she has 4 or 5 clients that she does it for them for. So
okay.
I want to say we pimped her out, but we put her in contact with people so she could stay busy with them and help their businesses, because their philosophy is different than mine, because I'm full-time. I have time to do some stuff. They are full-time with other businesses, and they need her to help bridge that gap.
Okay. When you buy a property, let's talk terms versus flips. If you do a term deal, do you buy a property specifically because you want to do terms, or do you wind up doing a term because it won't sell as a flip and it gets stale or whatever? How does that work?
I offer owner financing on everything, but the terms are more on a property I'd rather have cash for. I make the terms a little bit harder to get. So like, say I buy a property, I list it for 30 grand. I'll say owner may carry with half down. So the person's gonna have to bring 15 grand to the table.
So what you're saying is you make them sell you the property on terms if you really would rather flip it. And if they sign the paperwork, like, crap, I'm not going to give up 50% down and whatever. So every offer that you make and you buy could be a term deal, and you list it, and then you give them the multiple, like 3 different levels. Like if you put this down, It'll be this much payment, but if you put more down, it's going to be a little bit.
I'll run it. It's 10% interest, and I'll run it out to 120 months. And then the down payment dictates what it's going to be on the property.
Does it matter that you claim an interest rate? Why can't you just say it's going to be this much down and this much per month for X number of months, and just look and see how much money you're going to make off of it? I'm going to make $25,000 off this property. If I do it a little bit differently, make a little bit more higher payment, I'll get $28,000, and let them choose. And why even bring an interest rate into the equation?
Have you ever sold a note to a note buyer?
No, I have not. I've never even had a note to sell.
They want to look at the interest rate, because that's something that they get back on top of that. They look at the balance or the face value of the note. They're going to offer you a percentage on that, and then the kick for them is that percentage rate. Now, if you sold him a note that you said, hey, it's worth 20 grand, there's no interest on it, he's probably going to offer you like 6 or 7 grand for it. Now, if you tell him, hey, I'll give you 20, it's got 20 grand face value with 10% interest, he's probably going to offer you $11,000 or $12,000 for it. So it's an extra hour.
Yeah, but can't they just impute the interest on that? I mean, it's really just math. You can claim 10% interest. I can set up my deal to be the exact same numbers as you and just don't claim interest. Why is that important?
You could, but it's all a matter of perception.
You sell? So you've sold notes in the past?
I buy notes. So I bought this year $120,000 worth of face value of notes that are $120,000 are cash, worth about $250,000 in notes. So, and I like to see interest rates on that. I like to see a service charge. So we charge an interest rate, we charge a service charge. You know, it's just a matter of perspective, and I think that interest is always working for you.
Adam thinks you're wrong on that.
That's fine. He's entitled to that, and I love him for it. We have that conversation. Have
y'all had that conversation on the podcast?
We keep some conversations outside of the podcast, because we do talk to each other every day. There is the beautiful thing about doing this business is there is no wrong or right way to do it. The only wrong way to do this is pay too much for property that you can't sell. Right. The right way to do it is buy undervalued property. You know, if you're following the Land Academy method, they teach you a great way to find undervalued deals and increase your pipeline, and you sell it for more money. Now, if that's with notes or interest, and you know, I like seeing
document prep fees and all that kind of. He just made an offhanded comment. I'm telling on him here that he's like, well, I get the same amount of money. I just don't break all that stuff out because I just feel like it distracts people, makes some people. Maybe it puts them off or something.
And I would say the fair lending people with Frank Dodd is that what it is that would ask for to see what your payment actually breakdown is.
Well, yeah. Is that even? I mean, but do you have to do that on a land contract? Because you're not putting a mortgage on it. Like you're not putting an actual mortgage on it where you're transferring a deed, right?
Well, if you go to court and they ask you what's all in that payment, you're gonna be able to explain that.
Yeah, I'll just show them the interest rate.
Risk mitigation. It's a risk mitigation thing. It's not.
I got you.
Hey, this is the price. My price is already jacked up if it's on return. If it's going to be a terms deal, and
right.
The percentage for them, they don't really care. You know, that's why I'll add a year to it or 2 years. You know, there is no right or wrong way to do this business. The wrong way, like I said, is pay too much for property and not sell it.
I'm not suggesting it's right or wrong. I'm just challenging your mindset on why you might do something, because then it helps me understand, oh, okay, I see that. If I ever want to sell my notes, I need to probably have an imputed interest rate. All right, so let me ask you this. Do you ever do assignments or options?
On houses, I do assignments. I've never done an option.
And what is the difference in an assignment and an option in your eyes?
Well, an assignment is I'm selling the contract to somebody for a fee. An option means I'm negotiating that with the seller and saying, hey, I'm going to buy it for this much, but you're selling it for them. So you have the option to buy at a different price.
So does assignment give you a little bit more flexibility, or at least it doesn't make you feel like you're
assignment means you're just taking a fee. I'm signing it to somebody. I mean, it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other, I guess.
Okay.
I use assignments on house wholesaling that I have buyers lined up, and I just assign them the contract.
All right. So tell me about your first deal fund that you ever did. How did it come about, and what was your mindset on that?
my first like private funding for a deal.
Yeah.
So I had I got on Hoop Board, and a guy was trying to sell four properties in Corsicana, Texas. We had just went full time, and so I said, hey, I'll drive down there, and it was a package deal. He had those four plus another deal in Colorado. The deal in Colorado had a bad Google description, and so I agreed to buy the stuff in Corsicana. We got the price negotiated down for us, but he was going to have to back out of the stuff in Colorado, and I told him, I said, well, just sell it to me. And I said, I'll just write the legal description. And the guy's pretty smart, and he said, well, put your money where your mouth is. Why don't you fund it, and we'll still do the deal. So I funded the deal for him. We bought it for $5,000 and sold it for $15,000 in about a week and a half. I made $5,000, he made $5,000, and we moved forward. So
your gears started turning at that point?
Yeah, so we did. I've done like 5 or 6 deals with this guy now, and we've made money on all of them. It's been a good relationship. But what I saw was there was a need for a little bit of guidance in some of these deals. It wasn't just, hey, go to the bank because I know what I'm doing. It was, hey, I need somebody to help me because it's got a little bit of hair on it. And if it's a good deal, then we push it through. And then talking to a partner I had with a supplement company I own, he was interested in getting in the land, and he kind of wanted to know how we could do that. And I was like, well, hell, there is no money out here. There's people that had people that would fund them, but there was really no money out there. So
this is your guy that pretty much says, here's some money, go invest it for me.
Well, yeah, we both. So he, how do I put this? He had a supplement company. It got in trouble. I came into it as private label. I came into it, and we kind of helped him fix it and get it turned around. And I put a lot of money into it. It probably shouldn't have, because it wasn't part of my ownership, and that wasn't my role in the company. And then when I went on land, he said, hey, you did this for me. Let me just write you a check. It was like $6,000 or $7,000. It wasn't very much money. We did some land deals together. He turned that 6 into like 18 in like a couple months with me. And then the opportunity came to buy an apartment complex, and I used his money to put the down payment. And because I was wrapped up in like 20 land deals at the time. And so we used his money to buy the apartments. I managed it for 3 months, and then we flipped out of it, and we made $120,000 together on this. So he made 60 after tax and everything. It was like 50, 55. So he got 55 grand. I had my 55 grand, and we just took that money and dumped it into Plum. And then we just separated the ownership to where there's management and a piece there. So he owns a smaller percentage than me, and then I manage it. We take a management fee off of it. But that's how we got started there. And then we just kept dumping more money into it as we saw the deals just kept coming in. And so
you're just turning that money back into Plum. You're not taking money out of Plum.
No, I pull a management fee for the deals, but that's it. Everything else goes back into it. So like right now, we've got 2 that are closing, that are kind of like waiting. They're waiting on like a affidavit or something. They're closing. I've got 4 that I've got paperwork on my desk where I got to sign to send back so we can get those closed and funded this month. I think we sold 4 or 5 this month and bought another 4 or 5. So
what's your long range plan for Plum? Where do you see it going?
Man, it's kind of up in the air. I see Plum kind of sticking to about our goal was 2 deals a week. I want to stick to about that with those, but I've seen 1,000 properties this year, right? We've funded 40 or 45, give or take. There was another about 200 that were good deals for the person. They just didn't make enough money to bring a partner on. So I'm trying to put together how we take care of that person, that client, because those land investors still need help. And that was the idea behind Plum, is bringing private money and making it public. And so that's kind of, we're going to figure that piece out and then figure out how to get institutional money behind us in this niche, and we'll really watch it turn.
Okay, so you got something in the wings coming. Ben, by the way, said make that 36 all 5-star. I guess those are reviews. And is that Adam? Is that your partner, Adam? Is that who's in the room?
Yeah. He's
okay. Hey, Adam.
He stayed up past his bedtime today.
He's skulking around in the background. Okay. Let's see. So Ben is asking, can you give us thoughts on this? What is that?
Thoughts on building system process and outsourcing. Yeah, I can. I mean, again, there's no right or wrong way on your business. If you want to outsource everything, There's some good VAs out there. There's some guys I think that they get out of their business too fast and build the stuff to make it. They want to live this miracle, live on the beach lifestyle without actually understanding their business. And I don't agree with that. I think that you should understand each part of your business very well and be able to step in at any point. But I do see a lot of people kind of try to get out of their business too fast versus actually understanding the business at the beginning. But there are good pieces and good people out there. Like if I told you all you had to do was find a title company and find a realtor to list your stuff, would you do it? I mean, do you need 7 VAs for that, or do you need all that stuff? You could find people. They take a little bit higher percentage, but your quality is going to be a little bit different. So, my perspective is simplicity versus, building this machine that needs a lot of oil and maintenance to run.
So when you say simplicity, are you trying to find tools that automate your business for you?
No, that's a misconception. I believe that there's people and professionals that do their job extremely well, and that's who you should hire. So if you're going to go work a state or work a county, you can find a broker to list your properties for you. Flat rate MLS. If you're buying 4 properties a month that are going to make you $10,000 to $20,000 a month, do you really need to have a VA team sitting in the Philippines?
Do you, Adam?
He doesn't have one. He has his guy that actually runs his Craigslist ads.
That's right. To me, that was brilliant.
That's cheap labor. That's
a brilliant strategy that he does there.
It's exactly right. I use the same guy when I'm shopping on Craigslist. But it all depends on what you're shopping for. Now, If you look at I'll use Luke Smith for example. His business started off buying a bunch of smaller properties that he just churned deals. He was buying 2 and 3, selling 2 or 3 a day. You need a machine for that. Now, if you step back and you take for my example, when I went to the $1,000 model and I'm making $7,000 to $15,000 a deal, and I do 2 a month, do I need to have a team on standby? No.
Well, I would also think that you could probably continue to scale up to a point where if it starts bogging you down, just start doing bigger deals. You do fewer of them. You'll still have the same time invested. You'll just make more money that way instead of trying to juggle a bunch of smaller ones. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So
let me ask you this question. Let me put it this way. If anybody's listening here, you do 4 deals in the first 3 months of the year and you make $50,000 a deal, what are you going to worry about for the rest of the year?
Probably nothing, man.
You're just going to say, I'm going to pick a couple spots and try some things out.
Yeah.
So that's what you do. So
experiment.
You take that mentality. Now, for us, and we have our eBay business, I have somebody that does that. She sells 5 to 6 properties a month there. So, that's kind of busy, but we have a process for that. Now, if you're going out and buying a bunch of 1 to 5 acres for $100, you're going to need people listing them because you're going to sell them on Craigslist. You're going to sell them on Facebook Marketplace. You're going to do things like that. But if you're going to buy something that's going to be sold by a realtor or it's going to go on the MLS, you need to understand how to get it there and what that looks like.
All right, so let's talk about – go ahead. Finish that. I was just going to ask you, you do use MLS, but do you always use a flat rate broker, or do you actually find a good real estate agent, and how do you do that?
I see a comment from my older brother there. He's making fun of his first property he bought. I always use MLS, or I have used a broker before. So it just kind of depends. So
when you say have used a broker before, that just means, well, I used one and it wasn't the greatest experience, because if it was great, I'd been using it all the time.
No, I had a property in Oklahoma. No, it was a great experience for me. Had a property in Oklahoma. We paid $16,000 for it. It was 40 acres. I couldn't get up there to take pictures of it. I couldn't find a photographer. So I called a realtor that was really she had a bunch of land listings in the area. And I said, hey, this property's right by you in Talahina. Can you go take a look at it for me, get some pictures? She's like, yeah. She goes, I got a bunch of buyers that are looking for a property in that area. And I said, well, great. If you want to sell it, go ahead and list it for me. So we struck up a contract, did that deal. She took the pictures for me. She sold it 3 days on the market for $68,000. It was an owner finance deal. I paid $16,000, sold it for $68,000. I wrote her a check on the down payment. The guy gave me $8,000 down and pays me $700 a month for the next 10 years. So,
what did you pay? Did you pay her a standard 6%, 5%? What?
Yeah, she was the buy-in listing. She got 6%.
Okay. And so how often do you use an agent now? Is it only situational where you can't get somebody out there?
It's really situational for me now. I try to go flat rate if I can, unless just somebody stands out.
Or how do you use flat rate?
I Google the county and say, hey, what's going on? I just got a coupon code this week from a national flat rate. I think it's nationalflatrate.com. They just gave us one of my partners. It's not the public one. I can't share it, but it cost us $150 to list with them. So,
yeah, well, so far I'm not thrilled with the one I'm using. I used Broker Direct MLS, which is Continental Real Estate, and it was $245 or $295 or something like that. It was less than $300. I have not gotten one single phone call off of that ad or off of that MLS listing. Of course, they pushed it out to Zillow and Trulia, and it wound up being, I saw it on LandWatch, which I didn't have to pay extra for that. So I was happy about that. But I have not received one single phone call, and it's been out there now for 6-8 weeks. I have heard, but their phone system is kind of quirky. When you call the number that's on the sign, it doesn't go straight to my phone number. You have to step through this. Sounds like the first generation robot voice that's ever been used on voicemail. So now I've been told there was another one out there. I can't remember the name of it now, but
a lot of people use Congress Realty.
Yeah, that's who it is.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff. We have actually a couple properties listed with them, and they got like our phone crossed with. I have some people with Plum that have different properties, different partners, and that their numbers got crossed. So, they call on this property and they're actually calling the wrong person. So there's some things that happen with that. And those guys, you got to remember, they're just a listing service. They're getting a flat fee for you for using the broker. But
well, I'd be happy with it. I'd be happy if somebody ever made a phone call, came straight to my phone. So that's the jury's still out for me on that.
Okay.
So do you use any tools or software that doesn't come with Land Academy that you use?
I use Parlay. I use My First American. Yeah, I use that if I can't find it. I had a tax software that I use to help find some properties in some counties. I've closed that one down because Parlay and Parcel Fact usually get it for me. But my go-to is Parcel Fact. That's the first thing I look at. And My First American is a lot like Title Pro 24/7. And so I use those back and forth. But mostly, and then I use Lands of America to look at some of the GIS stuff on it. So.
Okay. What about Ben's asking, are you posting most of your listings on lands.com sites?
I do. I keep 10 slots open. And so if somebody comes through Plum that doesn't have that, I will drop their properties on there as well. But we kind of keep 10 going at all times there.
What does that cost typically?
Apparently I'm grandfathered in. I didn't know that, but it would cost me $240 a month is what I pay. So, I think some other people pay a little higher.
So do you maintain a buyer's list? And if so, how did you build it? And how does it, have you ever sold anything off of it?
No, I don't have a buyer's list. Let me take that back. On houses, I have a 12-person buyer list for DFW. It never goes past number 4 if I send them a house. On land, I have a few people that I know that work certain areas. And if I send out leads there and they call me back, a lot of times I wholesale straight to them. But
so you don't even I
don't have a chip monkey or anything, deals like that I send out to you.
Okay, so if you don't have a buyer's list, what is your first go-to of where you market a product? I mean, I've heard you say be everywhere, but is there a certain protocol of what you get listed where and when?
I think it depends on the type of property. So my normal property is going to go on the Lands dashboard. I may put it on my website, I may not, and then it gets on the MLS, whether that's with a broker or flat listing. And then I have rural vacant land on Land Modo. If the property's a smaller property, it's going to be if I buy a Nevada $100 an acre property, it's going to go on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace too.
Okay, gotcha. And all right, that answers that question. So you've answered that question. When you set up Plum, was there a lot of legal BS that you had to contend with as far as whether you're handling investor money or whether it's accredited investor or any of that kind of stuff?
Well, I'm the investor, so
I'm just saying.
My money.
I'm just saying, would it be difficult for somebody to follow in your footsteps to eventually get to the point where they can fund their own deals?
I mean, you're putting your money up for somebody else. You're not soliciting money, and that's what the accredited investor is working for. So the SEC doesn't want to. They don't want to see me come to you and try to solicit you for money that you don't have or you can't afford to spare. You know, if it's my own money, I can gamble away with it. You know, do what I want. We have an agreement in place. It's pretty clear cut and dry.
Do you have any tax strategies that you try to implement to mitigate income tax or anything like that?
No, I don't talk taxes with people.
You don't care? Oh, okay, gotcha. Oh, you mean you do have some? You just can't tell us, right?
I do not have tax strategies that I would share with anybody on here. For as Adam's dad tells me, he's going to come visit me in Leavenworth or wherever, whatever I'll end up. So,
are you doing infill lots? 2.0.
If I do infill lots, it's for a buyer, a specific area for a certain buyer. I've got a few buyers that build houses in the DFW area, so they'll tell me if they're in the market to buy some lots at that point, and I'll know those.
Okay. When you,
let's be real about infill lots real quick. You know, infill lots, these guys are doubling their money pretty quickly on those if they have builders in their back pocket. Now, why would you do that when you can make 3 times your money on 20 acres and have less risk and have less moving parts? Because if you buy an infill lot, you have to understand its buildability, where the utilities are, what you can put on it, the covenants, the setback lines. You have so much more risk and things to do. Infillreports.com is great. It'll help you with that. But if you're spending 8 to make 15, when you can spend 8 to make 30, I mean, it's just this simple math.
Okay, I got you. So why do you think that they even came out with it? I mean, you think it's in the right market?
It's a good piece of knowledge to have, to use the data that's out there with, you know, Redfin, Realtor, those things like that are great pieces of information and knowledge. It's a great knowledge base, but, you know, pick your poison, decide what you want to do. Don't look at shiny object syndrome and go chasing, you know, the dream of, hey, this week I'm going to do rural vacant land. Next week I'm going to do infill lots. Hone in on your niche and be good at it.
Okay, what makes a county turn you off? When you we're looking at stats and you're looking at a place to go and you look at a county, you see something that, oh crap, I'm not doing that. What is it that turns you off about a county?
It's not pretty.
So you make your wife go to Google Images for that county?
I mean, really, it's about the advertising and the pictures. Every county works. Every county has a buyer in it. I don't like agricultural land. You know, a bunch of farm stuff. I don't like working property with cows and things like that because people are trying to make money off that land with using the land. They're not just, it's not this dream, this pie in the sky of recreational property. So if I see a bunch of property that's listed, I get in it and it's just rows and rows of cornfields, I'm not going to know that.
So you're saying when you see that, you're looking on Land Watch or Land and Farm, or is that what you're looking at? To see what's already.
I'll tell you how I kind of start picking a county. It's pretty simple. It's not crazy. So if I want to buy in North Carolina, I'll look at North Carolina, right? And then I'll just type in North Carolina in the search. I'll start looking through the pictures. And if I see something that looks like mountainous, it has water, it has big trees, I'll say, oh man, that's a cool county. And then I'll make a note of those counties. Then I go back and say, okay, hey, I want to buy property with a margin. I want to buy $1,000 to $2,000 an acre property. So I will look up. If it's $2,000 an acre, I'll say, okay, hey, 19 to 21 acres, that's 2,000 times that's $40,000. I'll put that in the thing and say 19 to 21 acres at 40 grand. I'll hit search in North Carolina, and it's going to drop every property in North Carolina that hits that spec for me. I'll take that and I'll make a list of every one of those counties, and then I'll go through and price each one of those counties, and that'll be my next 8 mailers. And I just
So if you do that and you say one county has like 18 of them and the rest of them are less than that, you're probably going to go to the one that has the most, or is there a point where there's too many?
No, that's just to build a list of county names, because I don't know every county in North Carolina. Do you know every county in Tennessee?
No, I know there's 95 of them, though.
Okay. I'm in Texas. There's 323 of them. I know probably, 15 or 20. So with 50 states, I don't know every county. I just know what would it me to be there. And if I see a plethora of recreational land or timberland, or if it's a mountainous land that I'm looking for, whatever I'm looking for, then I build my list accordingly.
Well, I'm just saying, if you did that search in North Carolina and you came up with several different counties that have those properties popping up. If one particular county has way more than everybody else, is that just because it's more desirable, or could it be that it's too saturated, too much for sale? Can you get too much for sale?
I think you just start beating them on price at that point, because you're buying it at 30, 35 cents on the dollar. You're listing at 80 cents on the dollar. You're beating them every day.
By the way, that's an hour and 4 minutes in, and that was the money quote right there. How to do a search using $1,000 per acre.
We showed that live at our meetup, and there was probably 15 to 20 people there going, Jesus Christ, I have wasted days doing this. Like they were mad that they had gotten something. We've got to remember, the idea of the letter going out is to generate a lead. It doesn't have to be so infinite that it's like the difference of the math on a $389.09 and $360 is not going to make or break many deals. That's what I'm saying.
That's why I'm asking, how can you price something too low? I've asked this on every single webinar. If you price it too low, it seems like to me a person is going to sell it to you for 35% on the dollar, or 30 cents on the dollar, or 25 cents on the dollar. It doesn't matter. It's also cheap that they can't be looking at their property and doing comparables on what it's worth, or else they wouldn't sell it to you that cheap.
I have found that it's been consistent for me when I take like-kind property and offer 35 cents on the dollar. It's been pretty consistent in our results.
Have you ever done an A/B split where you maybe mail half of them at 25% and half of them at 35% and actually run the numbers?
I have broken up counties based on the type of property. Like I just sent a mailer out, actually printed today in a state. I said I want every kind of property like this in every state. So I comped, I think it was like 90, or I take that back, not 90. It was like 23 counties today on a state, because I wanted to try something out, and everyone was a little bit different.
So are you saying that you're going to mail all 23 at the same time, or are you just trying to see which one is coming?
No, mail the whole state today. Just mail the whole state.
How many letters?
I think it was 3,300.
Okay, so you must have a really specific type of property, right? Okay, like it has a railroad track running through it or something.
I pull on the I think what I use Data Tree today. They have a thing in there that says pretty, and I just put in pretty properties, and it pulls it back. Really?
Data Tree does that.
It
You got me, man. How's it going?
It's a property type that I want, and so we shop that. I shop nationwide. There was 333,000 of them nationwide. And so I went ahead and started messing with that. Then went ahead and took it down to a state and said, hey, I'm going to mail this state, then I'll mail another state, and then I'll mail another state. And that's where you're going to get to. You're going to get comfortable with it. We sent out, I bet I sent out 6,000 pieces of mail in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And we had 2 counties that didn't hit. And I sent to, I'll just say states: Maine, Tennessee, Oregon, Washington, Georgia, and Maine got 1 back. Tennessee didn't get shit back.
Welcome to Tennessee, brother.
Tennessee didn't get anything back. Or Washington didn't get any back. Oregon got 5 back. So we'll see more of that come back. I'm not worried about it, though. I mean, it's just you put more mail in the box and you just keep moving.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I put 3675 out to Tennessee in my home state, and I didn't get jack. So we're changing our methodology. Do you ever buy landlocked property?
Nope.
Do you know anybody in our group that does buy landlocked property that actually has? Because I heard Steven say, "Oh yeah, there's somebody in our group there's a couple people in our group that do really well with that." I'd like to meet those people.
I don't worry about what everybody else does, bud. I do what I do.
Well, I do because I like to interview them. So do you know somebody that should come on my show and let me interview him?
No, there's guys that love 2-track property. There's guys and girls that say,
what the hell is a 2-track property? I've heard that term. I don't even know what it means.
So you know the trail that has like the 2 tire marks that go down it?
Oh, so like a 4-wheeler trail or a farmer's trail. Okay.
I refuse to buy those. And I say that I'll say, no, I don't buy those, but I may find one and, I might buy a property for $1,000 in Nevada because it's 20 acres and it has an easement. You can see the easement's there. It's 2-track to it. I may buy it for $1,000 and say, I'll throw it out there for $4,000 and see what happens. So, I mean,
okay. So on these properties that you just looked at to find a certain type of property, you mailed out to 5 states and most of them didn't get you anything back. Did it occur to you to just mail one state at a time and see what it's going to do, or is it not matter?
No, you're getting 2 different things mixed up. So last week when we mailed the first 3,000 or 3,500, it was for certain size properties in certain counties. We isolated those counties based on the margin, it was $1,500 a margin. And then my mailer that went out today was a certain type of property that went out.
Okay.
And
that's today, so you don't know. You hadn't got the results back on that. All right, so Ben is saying, I've bought landlocked desert property, double money. It's a doable, but you have to hold it longer and field many more phone calls to sell it. Well, there you go. And then Ben also says, do you use Untitled Pro or RealQuest for data pools?
Ben, I use RealQuest, and then I also use DataTree. I have an access to both.
Okay, so Sanju's got a question here. What qualifies a single, double, triple, home run, grand slam home run like Tim Ford just did, like buy for 10, sell for X? Can you please run through numbers? I see people using these terms, but I wanted to clarify what it means, because I know Stephen gave you 2 backhands on the podcast when you said, "Oh, I hit a home run because I was double."
He likes to give me shit, and I'm okay with that. I mean, Sanju, it's about what you want in life. For him, if you're not making $100,000 or $200,000 a deal, you're just fucking yourself. And for me, I'm going to feed my kids off $10,000 to $12,000 a deal, and I'm going to laugh about it. So I mean,
you call those doubles and triples, stand-up doubles? What is that?
Man, I'll take it in the park home run all day and call it. You make me $12,000, I'm happy.
That's in the park home run. So you dive in the home and you're safe. Okay, I got you.
We call it a ground rule double.
Okay.
So, Sanju, if you're buying for $10,000, if you're selling for 25, after you're clearing 25 on the way back, dude, you're doing good and you're having a good time. And I know he's got a bunch of mail going out because we've worked together on some stuff. And I think he put too much mail out. He's about to get overwhelmed with some stuff.
Who is this?
Sanju.
Oh, okay. You're working with Sanju. Cool. All right. So tell me about this. When you start out doing small acreage properties and the sales process and the sales psychology of the buyers, how does it change when you finally scale up to bigger size properties? Does the sales psychology change?
Yeah, it definitely does. So when you're dealing with a person that's wanting to know every detail about a $2,000 property, like that's their last $2,000, and they're going to finance it anyways. You deal with a person that's going to buy a $30,000 property you have listed on MLS. Most times, I'm going to say 7 out of 10 times, you're dealing with a real estate agent they know that's coming to you, and they're bringing a contract. So you're dealing with another professional in the field. It makes the process so much easier. We did a deal in Georgia. I think we paid $11,800 for it, and we sold it for $32,000. We had it listed for $39,000, and they brought the contract to us, and it's just super easy, super nice deal. On the market for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and you're dealing with the real estate agent that's coming to you. They know what it's worth. They know that they're negotiating. You're going to give them a little bit. They win, you win, we all win, and we just keep moving.
So how do you, before Plum came along and you're just doing the deals out there, how do you determine how much money you might want to take out of the business versus trying to put it all back in? I understand that, you want to starve your personal life and feed your business, but there has to come a time where you say, okay, now it's time for me to start taking money. Do you have a formula for that? I mean, what can a person make? What can a person live on if they start off brand new with no history of real estate, but they go bust it and they work hard and they plug into all of this media that we have to learn from other people? What can a guy be making in a year?
It's up to you. If you want to argue about it, that's the $1 million question. It's, could you hit a home run like Tim Flood and Farron?
I'm not even talking about hitting home run. I'm just talking about just getting out there and hitting those stand-up doubles.
That's the idea. Is like, okay, what do you want to hit? What do you want to do? Now, if you want to go out and buy 5-acre properties that make you $1,500 each time, yeah, go do that. Have fun. You sell 3 a month, you make $4,500 a month, and you replaced a $60,000 a year salary. Now, if you decide okay, So for me, I turn everything back to the companies. You know, we start more companies. We turn it back. I don't pull anything out of my company. What I do is I live off savings, and I draw it down. I keep a year's worth of living expenses in my savings account. When I get about 4 or 5 months, I start looking for a big flip to flip all that back in, and I just dump all that cash back into my savings account, and everything else is still compounding, because the name of the game of this is compounding your money. Because whether you have to use me at Plum as a partner or you have your own money to do it, you know, if you use me, you're giving away 50%. I don't want to see you do that after deal 2 or 3, but most people don't have the self-discipline to say, hey, I'm going to go take my family to Disney World for $6 grand or $7 grand. That right there costs them $30,000. Or they don't have the confidence in themselves to say, hey, I'm going to go take a $20,000 line of credit or a signature loan and pay 6% interest on it for 3 months while I flip this property for 20 grand and I'm going to sell it for 40. You know, they don't have that confidence in themselves. And that's what you really have to ask yourself is, can you take that and put it in your gut and actually do the deal? Now, I don't, if you don't know how to do it, go take a bunch of credit or debt. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you have to decide for yourself what your end game is.
Yeah, well, I have confidence in myself. It's just a matter of I'm making the mistakes. I'm not going to make mistakes. I don't want to send out another 3,600 and not get results. And I was willing to pay Adam to teach me how to do that. And you've kind of confirmed some of the things that he taught me tonight. But yeah, I just want to know, you know, is it feasible? I remember your podcast. You talked about, oh, can a guy come out and make $1 million in a year? And both of you was like, no, probably not. That's probably not reasonable. Maybe we could from where we're starting from. I think you guys ought to do that. Y'all should put aside X amount of money, and well, just keep that money on the side and say take 10,000 and say how much can we turn it in a year? That would be interesting.
Yeah. We've talked about it. And I'll say this, so you kind of full transparency on the deals that I've done in real estate since I started real estate investing. We have taken I think it's 1.7, 1.8 million in acquisition money that we've spent on property that was worth about $3.9 million. Now, that's not saying I don't have $2 million sitting in my checking account. It's not. Everything is back out to work. Everything is outgoing. And some of that paid partners back, some paid loans back, some went to terms deal that I'm going to get over the next 10 years. So that's there is that. You can do that. That's not a impossible thing to do. But you have to be willing to take, you know, I keep a safety net and I keep building it up. It was at first, it was 6 months worth of money and it got down to 2 or 3 months, hit a home run and pay it back and then go to 8 months and go to a year.
So you do take money out and set it aside. You just don't take it like a paycheck, like a salary. I got you. What's the one thing that you learned that maybe you figured out that really caused you to catapult your business? Was there any time where you learned an idea or a trick or a hack, or you finally figured out something that, wow, your business, it finally took you to the next level? So
there's going to be a mindset shift, and this is more theoretical than actually like a formula to give you. So the mindset shift needs to be is when you get a deal, you start thinking about an idea, you think negative, you try to blow it up all the way. Then you go talk to your friends about it, they try to blow it up. You need to tell yourself this shit's possible. All you're doing is buying property for less than it's worth and selling it for more. It's not rocket science.
Dude, that's why I listen to you and listen to Still and Jill and Steve. I know it's possible. It's just my turn. You know, it's just it's time for me to step up and do it. I'm doing it. It just seems like it's going a lot slower than I want it to, but I'm looking forward to it growing.
The hardest part for people is they look at every county and they're like, oh, so-and-so worked that 6 months ago. So-and-so did this. So-and-so did that. Well, if you want to know something, you know the guy, reach out and say, hey, man, I saw you did this property. Or this county, what did you see there? What did you know? What did you offer? You know, if they don't tell you, okay, they don't tell you. You can figure it out anyways. If they do tell you, add 5 or add $12 or add 13 or add $20 and mail it, see what happens. If you get a couple deals, you got a couple deals, you all make money. It's an abundance mindset. It's not don't mail my county, don't do this. I mean, I've told you everything I do. I'm being 100% transparent with you. And yet there's still going to be people they're going to naysay and say, oh, that doesn't really happen. You can't really do that. That doesn't really happen. Sure.
Nick is saying he seems to hit singles. Nick Sliger, he was one of my earlier interviews. Though today I got a deal for 25 that I'm in at 7. A triple maybe? Yeah, that's a solid stand-up triple, man. You didn't have to slide into third.
So now think about that, Nick. 1 time a week you do that. what does your life look like?
And
I mean,
how many mailers do you need to have out there that you know that there's no doubt lay down you're doing? How many deals a month are you doing on your own dime, not your Plum stuff?
Well, when Plum got started, I kind of backed off a lot of my own mailers.
So before Plum, when you were killing it on your own
my
dime.
goal with Landmule was to make $10,000 profit a month, and we consistently do that. Now, there's like last month, I think it was a $45,000 or $50,000 month for Landmule on its own. This month is probably looking about just because I'm waiting on some stuff to come in and waiting on some stuff to close, so it'll probably be a $12,000, $15,000 month. So, there's ebb and flows and stuff.
Gotcha.
We all get hung up, but I need to make this now. I need to make that. We forget that it's a big pot, and you have to take out that. You can't be so micro. Be a little more macro and step out of it.
It's something I learned in other businesses that I've owned is the law of large numbers applied with the law of averages. And what a lot of people do, I think, is they only send out 700 letters. Well, that's the law of small numbers. You're not sending out enough numbers, and it may be that you get a property by every 300 letters. But if you only send out 700, it may be that if you'd sent out 1,500, the number 1,200 in first letter, the next 4 or 5 letters are the ones that hit, and you don't get anything for the first 4 or 5 or 600 or 1,000. You have to have a large enough numbers in the pot to apply to make the law of averages work. And even if your law of averages are good. Sanju said, today's Casual Friday podcast proves that Justin said more than anything I've heard recently. Today, was you really spewing out on the podcast today?
Well, we had Jen on today. We gave her $500 to start her land.
Oh, okay. So what he's saying is you've been holding back until today.
No, we haven't been holding back. We've been saying it. We just proved it. That was the whole idea behind having Jen come on this was she won fair and square. And then when I gave her the option, I said, hey, originally it was just going to be the land. And I said, hey, I'll give you $500 because I can sell the property and make $500 off of it. So I'm not out any more money. It's the same thing for me. But if you want to do this, we'll walk you through it. It's not, she doesn't get any special treatment. She doesn't get anything. We talked about, she has listened to every one of our podcasts. She has done the homework. She has followed our steps of what we do verbatim. And she's going to end up she's going to make her salary in a second mailer. She's going to make a year's salary by her second mailer. And all the things she's going to put out there is $700 on her second for her mailer. When I told her not to, she went ahead and did it anyways because she's like, no, this shit works. She comes over to the house, comes to my house or Adam's house, and sees that we're able to live and maintain, and this is what we do. So it's like, okay, well, if y'all can do it, I can do it too. And that's the mentality you have to have. You have to find somebody that I can do what they do, but then make it work for your personality or make it work for what you want. I can't say it like my older brother he popped in here in the comments talking about a property in Kentucky that the river washed like 6 acres away on it. But we bought another property in Kentucky together. We're in it for $16,000. We've got it listed for $70,000, and we have people lining up waiting for us to get actual pictures of it. Like we just took like the generic, Google Earth pictures and things like that.
Right.
And that right there, if you think about it from a teacher's perspective, he's not a teacher. He owns his own company that's very successful on its own. But we're in it for 16. We sell it for, call it 65. We make $50,000 on that. That's more than a 10-year teacher in Texas makes. One deal. Yeah. So, is it possible to do this? Yeah, if it's possible to do this shit, yeah. Could we do that 4 times a year and replicate it and make $200,000 a year? You bet your ass we could. And that's not trying too hard. So,
right.
It's thanks, Andrew. I appreciate you listening to that and watching, listening to the show and following that system. So, I mean, it's great to see.
Ben says it is possible. My first mailer was a total bust, made $0. I overpriced my second mailer to Colorado, still double my money or better on 10 properties. This absolutely works. Good comment, Ben. Are there any myth busters out there, like stuff that everybody thinks that should happen, and then when we actually do it, it doesn't happen? What are those myth busters?
Man, my myth busters are a little bit different than what you're asking. Like, do you need a brand new CRM? No, you don't. You can use Excel. Do you need all this shit? No, you don't need a ton of. You don't need VAs all over the world. You don't do it. You can bootstrap it together. The problem is people look for excuses to say why they weren't successful. When in reality, if they own it themselves, it's on them. It's because they didn't do the work or they weren't willing to try. Like, you're getting so many nuggets of information by doing a webinar like this that you're going to be like, holy shit, I've got all this shit in my head. But you're going to, as long as you implement that stuff, you're going to do well. These guys that are listening to it, they're looking for that little nugget to twist their business or give them a little inspiration to push them over the edge. Because really, that's all it's going to take is just this little moment that says, hey, it's clear for me. I have a clarifying moment. I'm going to do this and this and this, and they're going to work for it. So,
well, it's kind of like what Stephen and Jill said on the recent podcast, which is the 5 levels of the property man. And the first one he chose was you just make the decision to actually do it. You move forward and do it, when most people are always thinking about it and never get around to pulling the trigger. Do you ever buy HOA property?
Yeah.
Why?
Why wouldn't I?
Well, I've got 2 of them that I'm sitting on right now, and I just hate.
I mean, it's an additional expense if it's not there. You may have to clean up some HOA fees, but you know, just out on your price. You know, you're getting in and out.
Well, technically, I think my partner told me, he said, I think we're just being greedy because I bought it for $4,029. It's 5.3 acres, almost 5.4, and a guy offered us 10 for it, and I turned him down. We got it listed for 17.9. So I mean, we're looking at a 4-banger. So probably just being greedy. I know I could turn around and lower the price and sell it, but
well, let me ask you this though. Okay, so this is one of my biggest pet peeves with this whole thing is that somebody makes 4, they can sell it for 10, make $6,000, right? You put that $6,000 back on 2 more deals, you sell them again in another month, and you doubled your money, the same margin. You will make more money doing that with the velocity of money than you will by just sitting on it and making that 17.
No, I disagree. Okay, I'm gonna disagree on this. No, listen.
You said 1,700 mailers out.
I'm fixing to make you eat your words. Because I don't have other deals to buy right now. I'm mailing out letters and I'm waiting for deals to come in. If that was the case, I don't have a problem lowering the price and moving it. So I just don't have those other deals. I'm not a big shot like you are.
No, I'm going to ask you a question out here. You have 14 guys on here. I bet 14 of them have letters coming in. And you say, hey, anybody got anything to wholesale for me? If you pay $2,000, I'll give you $2,500 a day. You don't even have to record it. I'll record it myself. Now you have deals. That's the thing is we made an excuse. Oh, I might my mailer went by.
All right. That's true.
So I won't eat my words. I'm just saying you're getting zoned in that the direct mail method is the only way.
You got me.
Have I ever bought a wholesale deal? You bet your ass I have. Have I ever sold a wholesale deal? I sold Sanju one, I think, last week. I sold Adam a couple. There's probably 2 or 3 other people I've sold wholesale deals on here. They still make money. We make a little bit and we get back to it.
All right. Do you have any more?
Right now, I got one in Modoc County. I'll sell you. It's an acre. It's listed for like 25. I'll sell it to you for $900.
Okay, I'll talk to you. That's a good point.
I've got one in Lake County, Oregon. It's a golf course property. I have $3,500 in it. I'll sell it to you for $3,500.
Okay. What happens when a property gets stale? Do you just drop the price until you move it?
I usually will. So I got real regimented at first that at 45 days, if it hadn't sold, I put it on eBay and sold it for terms. And so I built my terms up that way. We talk on the show. Adam, he zeroes in on terms. I'm open to whatever.
Right.
That's what we call it. But I'm as it. I'll take whatever. If it's a solid deal, the terms still are going to make sense, and I'll do the deal. It's not that's when you have to be a little bit flexible in the business. And then we talked about that, for entrepreneurs, you kind of want to be able to look at the deal and say, okay, hey, if I get most of my money back out and then have payments coming in for the next 6 or 7 years, why wouldn't you do it?
Tell us about how you, on occasion, you flip something, 20 grand comes in, you run out to desert properties and build your,
So
tell us about that. I like that idea.
Yeah. So last year, what we did is we had some bigger flips come through, and then we'd send out 10 to 40 acres in like Pershing or Elko or Eureka counties, and offer like $126, $127 an acre. send those out, buy, 6, 7, 8 properties, and then we'd ask for what we paid for the properties at down payment. And as long as we got close to that, we would take it, and then we would add 10% interest. We would add a $20 a month service fee and build those up. So we, in turn, turned some profit. We got all our money back out, put it back to work, and then we created 9 more terms deals for us that were paying us between $100 and $300 a month. And that increased our monthly income.
That's pretty slick. Is there any kind of land or property that you look at that if it has this one special attribute, it's like you're going to zero in on it every time? Is there something that has a characteristic that really appeals to you?
Access.
Okay, I know you've talked about that all the time.
It has solid access, and I'm turned on by it. Now, there's some things that it depends. Like for when I fund with Plum, I have a different mindset than when I fund for myself. Like for myself, profit's profit. I'm hungry. When I fund for Plum, I'm total risk analysis and looking at the in and out of what that looks like.
What's the worst mistake you've ever made, and have you ever repeated a mistake?
One county, I ended up buying some property for a little bit too much, and that's probably the property all sold, and I still made money, and actually made quite a bit of money off of them. I think there was 2 properties, a 20 and a 40 acre. I think I paid $6,000 for the 20, and I sold it for 14 on terms with 10% interest. And the 40 I sold for $20,000, and I think I had 8 or 9 in it. So I paid a little bit too much, but it kind of it made me look a little bit closer on the like-kind properties and what I'm trying to buy. I've lost money on 3 deals. Total was like $1,100 on 3 deals. They were access issues. They had barbed wire fences blocking them. And
on 2 tracks.
Yeah, they actually had they were platted roads. It looked like on Google Earth, and then there was a barbed wire fence. Somebody was doing an adverse possession on big sections of land, and so I didn't lose too much. Total was $1,100, but that's why I'm so strict on access. That's why I want a maintained road, because you're not going to have a piece of property on a maintained road that's been stopped. So have
you ever? Okay, I just lost my train of thought. Can't think of it. All right, let's move on. Does it ever get so predictable to you now that you don't have any trouble just picking any place to buy property and just pull the trigger?
I don't know the whole country if I was willing to spend $500,000 on letters and I could process it. I don't care. It's a margin thing. It's about money. I want to buy a property for $300 to $600. It's worth $1,000 to $2,000 an acre, and then I want to take that margin. I want it to be at least 20 acres up to whatever, and then take that money and roll. I want to make $12,000 to $15,000 a deal.
What's the biggest parcel you've ever purchased? Acreage?
Biggest 135 acres, and we paid, like I said, $52,000 for it. Sold it for $135,000. I've got a property right now. I just bought. It was $61,000. It's on the market, and we listed it 2 days ago. We had an offer for $110,000 cash. We turned it down. We have it listed for $140,000. So it's comps at like $180,000 to $200,000. So that 110 was a tough one to turn down, but I think it's worth more. I've consulted, or my multifamily. My multifamily, we paid $315,000 for it, and we sold it for $450,000.
Are you glad you did that, or you wished, on hindsight, would you have skipped it and gone back to velocity of money?
I didn't have any money in it. I made my part of it was $60,000 at $0, and I had a little bit of time.
So somebody else funded it then.
Somebody else funded it. He made half the money. He put up $75,000 and walked away with $60,000.
You mentioned earlier you had like an apartment complex. How in the heck did that? That sounds like it came out of left field. You're doing land, all of a sudden, boom, apartment complex? No,
but I mean, that's the one thing we all forget that we learned is a skill in how to create deals. And so I had a buyer that said, hey, if you can buy me an apartment complex, I'll fund it. And so I mailed every apartment complex in the county that he wanted to buy. And he saw the apartment complex. He went and walked with me. And he said, man, it's a good property. I don't want it. It's below my class that I want in my property, in my portfolio. And so we set up to wholesale it, and the wholesale fell through. And so then I brought a money partner in, and he put the $75,000 down for it, and we bought it. It took us 45 days to close it. We went and put a finance contingency on it. He put 75 grand in, and we sold it 3 months later. I managed it for 3 months, collected rent, fixed a couple like hot water knobs, and put new floors in a couple of them, put new appliances, and mowed it a couple times, and we moved on our way.
So, do you don't visit your properties anymore? Did you at one point visit properties?
I have nothing against visiting property. If it's within driving distance, I'll go visit it.
Okay,
the one in Kentucky that we bought, I'd go drive there, but it's about 24 hours away, and the weather's shitty, and I got a canoe across a river, so I'm not there yet.
Okay, okay, so that's that question. What's the difference in somebody buying desert property versus everything else out there? Because basically I've been told that desert properties are a different kind of animal compared to, properties like Tennessee or whatever.
It's numbers on papers to me. I'd love to say there's a difference. I think you can get a little bit higher margin in some places like Tennessee versus Nevada, for instance, but they all still make a certain percentage. If you're buying at 35%, it doesn't matter whether you're paying $1,000 and selling it for 3 or 4, or if you're paying $10,000 and selling it for 30. It's the same ROI, but at the end of the day, what has more impact on your life? And so that would be my question.
Yeah, but don't you? Isn't that your go-to place if you want to do a bunch of cheap, quick deals and turn them into terms and get your money back?
Well, the land's cheaper there.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm saying.
If you're buying it for $100 an acre, you don't have, so you buy it. Like I bought. I'm trying to look at my notes over there. I think I bought a 12 acre or a 10 acre for $1,190 there. I got $1,200 down, and I get $225 a month for 5 years. Who wouldn't get $225 a month for 5 years for free with zero risk? I mean, it's just risk mitigation on that type of deal. That was the asset or the product type I was shopping. Now, is that what I'm building my business on? No. If you shouldn't be so isolated or so focused in that you won't look at different property types.
Okay. All right. What is your long-term goals, man? You're doing all this stuff, but do you see yourself like going for the triple comma and a check, the billionaire status? Do you feel like that's, where do you want to go with this thing? Or do you get to a certain level where you say, okay, I just want to pack it all in and let it run on automatic pilot and go play with my cars?
I worked probably, I'd say realistically 80 to 90 hours a week when I worked for the railroads. I want to watch my kids grow up. So if I can do this for the next 18 years and watch my kids grow up, and them know their dad, then I won. That's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, but you have the power now to stop, to take off and go take your kid to soccer practice or go to a trip to Nashville to a motocross race or whatever. You control that now. So you're already there. You've got that lick.
I could quit working today and not work for the next 15 years and be okay. But then I'm going to have to go back to work. So the idea is like Adam talks about it, it's the freedom of time. Like, it's what you want to create. For me, that freedom of time is because I want to interact with my kids and know that. That's something as a father that I think we all want to do. And I'm at that point now where we can, but I still have to pay for life. There's still a cost every month. And so what do I do? There is. And so what do I do to offset that? Could I just liquidate everything and go live in a van with my 3 kids and my wife? Yeah, but that would be a shitty existence.
Down by the river.
Yeah, we could do that. I could go buy an off-grid property, put a cabin on it, put a generator, and my kids go to some small podunk school and enjoy it. But I want my kids to understand that life is more than going to punch a clock for somebody. I have a really close friend. He made a decision. He has a very good job for a very good company. He made a decision that's the same decision they would have made for the last 20 years. They have a new executive. He didn't like the decision. He got sent home for work and had to go tell his wife he didn't know if he had a job the next day. I want to control my destiny and my future. And he makes $200,000, $300,000 a year. That's a big impact to have somebody else just because they didn't like the decision you made. That's the same decision that everybody else across the company makes every day because that is standard operating practice. And he just didn't like that one you made that day. That is not how I want to live my life. I can go get a job. I have a good resume. But I want to control my freedom and enjoy my
Absolutely.
kids.
Dude, I hadn't had a boss in 30-something years. I could not go work for somebody else. I'm too mouthy. So Jason says, I have yet to do my first mailer. I'm 2 weeks in. I just finished my CCFL videos. I'm going to pick a county and start getting my mailer ready. I need to go back and watch the videos again. I've got my domain registered and Facebook page. Way to go, Jason. This is my buddy, Jason the B-Man. We belong to the same group that Tim Ford is in. I don't know. Maybe that's how you found yourself. Adam is saying, I tried to trade an Oklahoma deal for that apartment complex. Wouldn't that have been interesting? So you should have got there quicker, Adam. I mean, you can't beat.
Again, we all have constraints with the government. And that deal, we couldn't get to work. We tried to get to work for him. I was all about wholesaling him because he's bought wholesale for me on a duplex, and they made $30,000 off of it. You know, we went and had breakfast after we went and looked at it. He walked it, we looked at it, we talked to the tenants. They closed on it. They sold it 2 months later and made $30,000. I mean, it's abundance lifestyle. Could I have done the deal and kept it myself? Yeah. But my buddy made better, and he got to turn that into more of his business with him in his partner. So.
Cool. So I asked Adam this, like he's got a martial arts degree, is that right?
He says, I've never seen him do karate though.
And he teaches CrossFit or something like that.
Yeah, so he's got 2 black belts. He's a second-degree black belt. And I believe it's American karate.
So Adam versus Justin, who wins? Mortal Kombat.
If we were doing like powerlifting, I would win all day. Yeah. If it was something that was probably a little more endurance-based or the CrossFit style workouts, there's a few workouts I would probably do as well or not better. Majority of the CrossFit style workouts, he's going to do better than me.
Okay.
It's all what you train for, though.
Fight to the death.
We would never fight. We would never fight.
All right. Well, you haven't seen the movie Saw 2, Saw 3, Saw 4, right?
No.
All right. So here's what I'm trying to figure out. If I want to go buy abandoned properties, a property has an old dilapidated house with a tree growing up through the front porch and the windows are out. How do I find those using RealQuest or Agent or Title Pro 24/7? I'm trying to figure that out.
Man, that's a tough one because it's not based off the improvement value. It's going to be based off the value they've assigned to the improvement.
So you'd have to really search. You'd have to really search through all your download and try to compare the same. But wait a minute, it would be an improved property though. So if you're looking for land,
you're going to have improvement, but the improvement value is going to be really low. Not the percentage, the value. Like I bought one in Oklahoma not too long ago, and the people I may have it on one of my land Facebooks where the people went in and they went and looked at it, had an old well or had rural water there, they had a whole septic. They went in and rebuilt the house, and the house looked like it fallen in on each other. I wouldn't even go inside the house. I thought it was a shed, but I looked at it in satellite. I drove up to it, and there was a house. There were snakes all around it. I was scared to go near the snakes, and they ended up buying it from me. They paid $16,000 for it. They rebuilt their house. They moved their kids in, and they're going to school up there now. And they're loving it, and they pay $200 a month and enjoying life in a brand new house for $200 a month that they rebuilt themselves.
See, I found this property has an abandoned mobile home. It's probably been there 30 years. It's rusting away, and somebody needs to do something with that property. I mean, I would love to buy it, and I wouldn't be afraid to buy something like that, and because you could turn around and take that trailer off, and somebody all day long wants to put their mobile home back on it. Yeah. I'm just wondering how do you use the tools that we have to actually has anybody figured that out? Maybe that's
you could use year built in construction and say, hey, I want something that was built between like 1920 and 1950. And see if that pulls it up. You know, I mean, you could try to manipulate it that way, but you're not going to get a condition. There's not. I take that back. There may be a condition in some counties that they keep it. So you may be able to go to like Data Tree or RealQuest and see if they have a condition, like it'll say like abandoned or something like that. There's some counties that do have that condition on property.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple counties and I hadn't been able to do it. Yeah, Adam, I am trying to stir up something, man. It's good for entertainment purposes. If you guys are fighting, as long as I'm not involved, I don't care. So
yeah, Adam's seen the one-hitter quitter at the bar where I broke the guy's face.
Really, I think that's what it is. He's really just trying to say, "Look, please don't hurt me." He's showing you. He's like a dog showing his stomach to you.
Back in Adam's day, that he could like snap kick like probably 6 foot high, 7 foot high.
Back in the day, but you're saying not now.
I don't know how flexible he is now. I don't know if he can still do the splits or not. He used to be able to. I don't know if he could now. He was like, what's that? The guy off of Bloodsport, John Claude Van Damme.
Oh yeah. So if you were going to do research and you wanted somebody like to quiz about the area, would you go to a title company? Would you go to a real estate agent? Would you go to call the assessor or the recorder of deeds? Who would you think would be willing to tell you what's going on and help you the most? Probably an agent, I guess.
What are you wanting to question? That'd be how I direct who I ask. I mean, like, what do you want to know?
Well, that's a good question.
So am I saying, hey, do I want to know what's going on with just the county in general? Well, probably go to the gas station, call the Quick Mart, and say, hey, what's going on in this county? Oh, so-and-so's been buying up all the property, blah, blah, blah. Are you trying to find out about, who the best agent is, who the best title company is? I mean, I got to be more narrowed into that. Yeah,
well, I don't have a question then. We'll just move on. I was just wondering if it would make sense. I mean, when I first went to the first county I went to, I was able to drive to all the properties. I was trying to get a feel for what's going on. I found this. There was an HOA. What's the word I'm looking for? There was 387 properties inside this HOA, but they'd only ever sold and built. They sold every single lot in it. Somebody owned it. They only ever built 20 homes in it. Like, what in the heck is going on that everybody? And what I found out was everybody bought these homes right before the crash, and they had some big company came in and marketed the hell out of it. And it was it's like the gold rush. I don't know if you ever saw that movie with Tom Cruise where they shoot the gun and they take off to and stake out a claim. That's what they did in this thing. They marketed the heck out of it, brought people in from all over the United States, selling this great lake view lots and whatnot. And they sold 387 lots in one day. And then what happened on that is it was like 2004. So a lot of these people were maybe going to come back later when they were retired and build their dream home on it. The market crashed.
That's what everybody did. It's the great land hustle. That was the MO through the 70s and 80s. I mean, that's throughout the West. That's why we shopped the West, because all that was subdivided down for that reason. And these big companies got in trouble for unfair lending practices, for promising these big neighborhoods and retirement homes, and it didn't do it. That's exactly what took place in the early 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Okay.
Swampland. So they built these neighborhoods. Like my parents bought a property on Lake Granbury, and probably somebody that you buy in Granbury have probably bought there. It's called Canyon Creek Estates. Quarter-acre lots. They were $6,000, but we'll finance it for $199 a month. And they built these big old HOAs, and every year there was $1,000 in HOA fees because they put a pool. They put, like, this one had 2 pools, a baseball field, a boat ramp, a boat dock to go fish at, tennis courts, and basketball courts. We camped out there every weekend. And then it just became something we never used. And now it's just vacant land. So.
Well, that's kind of what happened here. And I bought that property for $4,029. The guy I bought it from had paid $58,900 in 2004. Exactly. Hey guys, if you want to get your business figured out, if you're not hitting on all cylinders, maybe you might want to book a session with Justin. You can click on that link. It'll take you to his website where you can, in fact, you're willing to give them a $50 discount if they put in the word webinar in the comment section. It's only good for 2 weeks.
Yep. If they book it and they put in webinar in the comments, I'll knock $50 off the price.
Knocks $50 off the price, and that's good for 2 weeks, so the 22nd. So if this broadcast gets replayed in a link 6 months from now, it's not going to be good then. So book your session. So, bang, I keep having these great questions, and then I just keep losing them when I change gears there. Could you use this system, the data that we have, to buy cars?
You can. There's some things that you have to do differently. Steve talks about it, but when we actually set it down to talk, you have to have an attorney. They have to okay it and sign off to why you're using it and what you're doing with it. So, yeah, but I've never done it, but you could.
Well, I could see maybe if there's some kind of database somewhere, and I don't know if like he said it was very difficult to get the database for DMV, like it's impossible.
No, yeah, you just have to have an attorney sign off on it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and so we had talked about doing that, but I mean, shit, we got so much other stuff going on between them and House Academy and the things they got going on. That I have Plum and Land Mule and the other things we have going on. It's just kind of one of those things that it's hard to get up and going. We have
it might be worthwhile if you wanted to dabble in heavy equipment like Caterpillars and D7s and stuff like that that command big price tags. I don't know if
if you have that, but then you're having to send somebody out to do an inspection and things like that.
That brings me to that's one of the questions I had. When you need photographs, besides an agent, have you ever hired somebody to go out and do photographs or drone footage or that sort of thing? Do you use that, GoLook.com?
I don't use GoLook. I use drones.io. You can negotiate. It's like a message board for drone operators. They will respond back and they'll bid on the job. And you're going to be anywhere from $100 to $300. They'll edit the videos and they'll take pictures. And another quick trick that I use is I go to Facebook for that county, the buy, sell, or trade page for that county or that little town, and then put it out there and say, hey, I need somebody to take cell phone pictures of this piece of property. I'll pay you via PayPal. It's paid $75. And usually you'll get 2 or 3 people back pretty quickly on that. And that's what we do that.
Okay, so you actually do it through Facebook instead of trying to do Craigslist or that kind of thing?
Yeah. It's a little bit quicker. We find that people are more engaged on Facebook than Craigslist right now.
All right, so what question that I haven't asked that you're saying, Jake, you're a dumbass, man. You should have asked me this question if you got me on here. What question is that?
No, I think that I'm going to answer Ben's question first. It says, Justin, besides the money, what do you love most about land business? Any aspects you don't mind? For me, about land, it's nice to have a company that you can control and run it the way you want to with a product that is never going out and it's always going to have a demand. Whether you're recession or what that looks like. The aspects I don't like about it is some of the newer investors coming in that believe it's a get rich quick scheme, or that they get sidetracked because they want to blame everybody else for their shortcomings. It works. You just have to go in and do the work and be willing to do that. So I hope that answers that for you. But there's not many companies, there's not many businesses or niches you can get into and do the kind of profit margins that you're going to see in land. So, and then Ben, we're working. I'll walk through how we do Plum real quick. So what I ask, if you're going to do a deal with me, you send me the APN, the state, the county, and the contract price you have under. Make sure it has access. I'll look at it and I'll check a margin on it. And what I like to see is about 3 times in value. So if you get it for 10, I like to see it's worth pretty consistently at 30, even though we may sell it at 25. And then we'll go from there. It's pretty simple to work with this. You can go to pluminvestmentgroup.com, and then you can reach out to Justin at Plum Investment Group, or you can just reach out to the landmule@gmail.com. Either one of those will work, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Hey guys, one last thing. I think everybody in here is a Land Academy member. If you're not, we do have a discount. If you use Buy Land as your promo code, when you go sign up for discount for Land Academy, you get $500 off. So you guys can do that. How granular, I'm about to wrap up here because I'm starting to run out of questions. How granular do you get when you start looking at a county? Do you get to a point where you start looking at the APNs or the map and parcel scheme and pricing one side because it's rural, the other side because it's closer to a city or whatever?
That's, I guess I have an unfair advantage compared to a lot of people because I see so many deals come across the desk and I understand a lot of people's buying philosophies. What I have found is that you need a little bit of stupidity and not to be so smart. What I mean by that is have a good concept of how you're going to price. Replicate that over and over. Something that's replicatable. But don't be so smart that you're so into the weeds that you try to do too much on the front end. the best house mailer I ever sent out, I messed up because of the data. The county gave me the wrong data, added like 500 square feet to every house. So my price was like an extra, $5,000 to $7,000 on every deal. I got 12 houses back on an 800 house mailer. We ended up buying 5. 4 we could have bought. We said no. But the idea of if you offer too much, say, hey, my contingencies say this. I would love to buy that. I just can't right now. My partner won't let me. My money's not there. Be willing to close the deal and say, hey, you know what? I want to do the deal. If you offered them 15, you really need to be at 12. I can't buy it at 15. I'd love to. I just can't right now. I can buy it at 12 if you want to do the deal today. If you'll wait 3 to 6 months, maybe we can get to 15. And most of those people will understand if you're honest with them, you're sincere, and they'll make the deal for you. So
do you ever explain to them what the contingency is, the reason you're not wanting to buy at that amount, or are you just using a vague contingency because you just don't want to do it?
I'll tell them, hey, I bought too much property in that area, or the property has dropped from what we got when we originally got our data, or my assistant's made a mistake, and it's the assistant's me. It's not anybody else. I just blame it on, my boss, who's my wife. She won't let me pull the trigger on that much right now. Her name's still on the company, but she's just.
Does your offer letter change depending on where or what type of properties you're mailing to?
No, it's pretty consistent.
Are you using? I'm sorry.
I use a consistent one. My contingencies are a little bit different than what's in the standard land academy one. So I added that it must have a road, unobstructed road access that's maintained, dirt or paved, and that it has to meet my purchase requirements. So,
and that's your weasel clause, the purchase requirement. Yep. If you started over in this business today, knowing what you know, what would you have done different, or how would you move faster? Would you skipped over something? How would you redo your bit if you started over again?
I think it's an unfair question because I am where I am because of the way I started. But if I were to start somebody new, like you take Jen, for example, and you take Beth, you take the many other people I've helped start from the beginning, Zach, I push them into a little bit bigger properties quicker because of the resources that we provide with Plum, and then the Casual Friday now, the educational piece that we put out there. With our book, Coffee Money Real Estate Investing, she bought 8 properties and she has $400 in them. She's going to make $3,000 back. And
tell us about the book. I forgot about that. You had a book, and when you came out with it, I said, oh man, I want to get that book. So tell us about the book. What's the essence of the book?
So Coffee Money Real Estate Investing it's the idea that for $5 a day over a month, you can take that money and buy 3 properties from the state of Arkansas, and then turn around and resell them and continue to scale up your business. It's not a get-rich scheme book. It's actionable steps to take and become a real estate investor for very little risk. The cool thing about it is when we launched it, we thought, oh, cool, we'll sell a book a day or something. It'll be fun. We've actually hit the #1 bestseller in short reads and investing on Amazon. We held the #1 spot for 2 days on investment books on Amazon. So it was pretty cool to see that. So we're seeing it bounce as a #1 new release in a couple spots there. We're on every major ebook source. So it's pretty cool to see that. Make a couple bucks off of it, but the idea what's that?
Can you post a link to how to get the book if we want to go? Where's the best place to go get it? Can you throw a link in the chat room?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, give me a second. You can get it on Amazon. Let me get a second here.
Okay. Guys, if you guys have any last minute questions, get them in. We're about to roll up on 2 hours. I'm super pumped that almost every person that has been in the room has been here the whole time. We've only lost a couple of people. That's unbelievable. But that's the power, the magnetic personality that you do have, Justin.
Yeah. It was to see how many drinks I could have on camera.
Yeah. Are you getting buzzed yet?
I'm 4% right now. So here it is, right. getting it pulled up. I'll share it in just a second here.
Okay. So, man, I really appreciate you coming on board and doing this. And when we get done here and I click off, don't hang up. I want to chat with you just a sec. But
okay.
Yeah, to have Adam on and then you, it's like a double duty. Okay, there it is. Guys, go click on that so it will open up in another window so you can go get that. So, do you have any other books up in your mind that you want to crank out down the road?
Yeah, I've actually been working on one for a while, and it's pretty cool. I've got it written. It's just a matter of formatting it and it actually meaning what somebody would want to say. So 5 years ago, or when my kids were born, I started a book, and it was 5 years to be financially independent or being able to work for yourself so you can watch your kids grow up. So it's kind of that story.
Cool.
So I've kind of blocked it, and every business that we've tried and failed or tried and it just didn't take off. And then it goes into the land business. And so I have to tie up some stuff with the land business so we can talk about deals. But what I did is when I was working a corporate job, when I went on vacation, I would just kind of talk about the side hustles we had going on and kind of full first course, hey, this is what happened. So, and then it takes on the mindset of, we have a group of people around us at all times. We talk about your net worth and your network and things like that. But to me, I kind of look at that. If you look at like your parents, if they're not entrepreneurs, or your aunts and uncles, for me, my family is real big into like the trades. Like my dad's an electrician, my older brother's an electrician, my uncles are painters or carpenters. By looking at that, we as a group of people miss the opportunity with our family because it's not this big sexy dream. But like if I wanted to build a house, I could essentially call my dads and my uncles, and together they know enough people that we could build a house together, right? And so if I wanted to be a house builder, I just call the people I know and we build it together. It's people I trust that do this every day. And I feel that there is a missed opportunity for all of us, in that, whether it's in corporate America or whatever it is that we have this herd around us that make big corporations very wealthy, and we don't realize that the people that actually do that are our friends and family. And so it's that idea of putting those forward.
Okay.
Did I lose you there?
You got a little squirrely there. I don't know if your signal's giving out or not, but well, that's really cool, man. I really appreciate that. It makes a lot of sense. Do you have a mentor that you look to learn from in business? Somebody ahead of the game on you, or how does that work? Are you still there?
I have a ton of mentors. I think every season of your life you have. I don't know what the problem is. I've got full signal here.
Okay.
I've got full signal, so I don't know if it's where the connection issue is.
Yeah,
are you there? Everybody there?
Yeah, I am here. I think there's a big lags. So maybe we can circle back around that on another time. In fact, I got an idea I want to run past you when we get done here. Guys, I think we're going to call it a little over 2 hours. You guys have been great in the room. Thanks for all the questions and comments. If anybody here has somebody they think that should be a guest on the show, please let me know who they are. Go back to, pull out your Rolodex, and if you've got somebody, please spread the word. I think the more people that we have that can show up on our, I'd love to have 100 people showing up on a weekly basis. And I realize that part of the problem is we're herding a bunch of cats. We're a bunch of independent business people, and like Steve and Jill say, as these guys get going, and then they do great, and then they just disappear because they don't have time to come to the forums, and they don't need to learn anything else. But it sure would be helpful to. I don't know about you guys. I learned tons of stuff from interviewing people here, and I think other people feel the same way. Who's on next week? I believe I've got Joe Martin on. I've got Joe Martin lined up. I've got somewhere down the road we'll have Rowdy Baker on. He's agreed to come on. John Joniak, I think is his name. I've talked to him. I think I'm going to get him. I've got plenty of people lined up, but we've got some good people coming up in the future. So, hey, we're going to call it, guys. Thanks for coming out. Any last words, Justin?
No, just get out there and put some mail in the box.
Put the mail in the box.
Yeah, don't get hung up on the what if. Do it.
Just go do it, guys. All right, with that, we're going to see you guys next week. Be looking for the replay link. That's what I meant to say. Send that replay link out to a friend or relative or somebody who's interested in land investing, and get them in the room next week. You guys will be getting that within 24 hours. I'm going to click off here, and then we're going to talk to Justin. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.